Hello. Today we have Andreas Knoefel with us. He's a customer success expert. He's a CEO. He's a thought leader. He is a strategic consultant and author. Thank you so much for being here. Andreas, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and what your current business is?
Sure, it's a pleasure to be here and share about my passion for customer success. I call myself an aficionado. And to me, customer success is really about maintaining and expanding the revenue from existing customers. What are all the things you have to do to make your customers happy and successful, so that whatever solution, whatever service you provide is becoming more like an addiction that they want more of instead of a visit to the dentist. So in that background, I founded CS Tuners, a customer success management consulting company, to help companies, executives, as well as the practitioners in various departments that touch the customers to achieve that goal. And out of my math background, from an education perspective, I'm also a data hound. I love to collect data, and we'll get later on into this with the AI angle of our conversation. I've run an annual benchmark survey based on a best practices framework that I invented. It's called the Customer Success Performance Index. And it extracts what are the behaviors that the best-in-class leaders differentiate from whoever is just doing stuff and is not achieving the same outstanding business results as these leaders do. So the next results will be published in a few weeks, but that is very exciting to me because that means it's not just my opinion. I have several hundred successful leaders behind me that back my opinions with their successes as well.
Oh, that's great. Where can we get that benchmark report?
So you go to cstuners.com. There is in the blog the last year's results already available, as well as other blog posts on specific topic areas. And you can also participate in the ongoing benchmark data collection for free, and you get immediately a report that compares your performance and your results against this pool of other leaders in the business, so that you see where you stand, and also provide you already with a couple of recommendations of the areas you should look into to move, if you're not yet in that upper quadrant of excellence in leaders, how to get there.
Oh, that's perfect, and great timing too, since you're launching the new one in a couple of weeks.
Yes, so, exactly.
Andreas, most of our listeners are practitioners. We do have entrepreneurs listening as well. We do have a lot of folks like vice presidents and directors. At what point do those types of people reach out to someone like you?
Unfortunately, I have to say not enough, right?
And too late, not enough.
Too late. Yes, exactly. They're mostly reaching out when they are in a crisis mode, and not just in a crisis mode with one customer, but everyone's hair is on fire. They were caught up in just trying to serve customers, and business is either scaling or failing. I mean, with the COVID crisis, we had a lot of retraction and shrinkage, and suddenly they're like, I need help. I need someone to come from the outside, assess what is going on, help me get out of this conundrum that I'm stuck in, and move into a better place. So that is usually the trigger, a high pay point of failing business expectations internally to their board of directors, to their CEOs, that triggers them to seek my help.
Okay, that makes sense. So when you go and help them, tell me a little bit about the customer success performance like that you teach. Because one of the things that was interesting when we were talking about you coming on, I mentioned customer service and you said, no, it's customer success. And I really like that because that's what it's all about is right. It's not just to answer some calls, but actually be successful. So how do you teach? I know we don't have that much time, so I need you to really condense, but how do you teach customer success to teams that maybe aren't getting it?
There are multiple steps to this. First of all, when you look into customer service or even customer success in an org chart, you believe, oh, that's what this team is responsible for. So first of all, customer success is a corporate-wide attitude. Everyone who ever touches anything with the customer is responsible for that customer's success. That means it's the services team, it's the support team, it's sales, it's marketing, it's your account management. If you have a renewals team, anyone who is in product, who implements a feature that doesn't necessarily crash your business process, but is just unusable, is responsible for that customer's success. That is the first thing that people need to understand. Not this is something, a responsibility that I can toss over the fence to someone else. And in order to avoid too many cooks in the kitchen, customer success devises the strategy across all the functions inside the company, how to get that cohesive behavior, that conscience, and be the one central function that is always aware of what is going on with my customer. It could be any type of department that is dealing with a customer. It could be engineering because there is a bug in the software code that is causing some trouble and pain. Customer success needs to know about this so that nobody goes out and says like, hey, it's time for renewal. How are you doing? This is not a good time to talk about new business when the existing functions are failing. And that's obviously a very simplified, condensed example, but that is what you need to have. Otherwise, you're just putting more band-aids into the breaking landscape. And ultimately, this dam will break, and you're not successful as a business anymore because your customers are abandoning you.
Yeah.
So that is the first thing. And then secondly is the understanding that customer success is responsible for customers. Before they sign any type of contract agreement, they are prospects. Afterwards, they are customers. Nobody wants to be handed from department A to department B to function C. They're governing the entire customer journey. Customer success is responsible for recouping the loss that you had by investing in all these resources in sales and marketing to gain a customer in the development of the product, and turn that over time into profit by collecting more and more subscription revenue, services revenue, training revenue, whatever money it is that you can get in exchange for the service, the value that you provide, and recoup that investment that you made and make a profit at the end of the day from each customer.
Yes, that's so good. So you mentioned a few things in the last couple of things that you said. You talked about COVID, you talked about resources. So I want to kind of marry that together because that's been a big problem for people, right? It's during COVID last year, it's continuing this year. Customer service departments are saying we don't have enough resources. What is something that they can do with those organizations that don't have enough resources for customer service? Do you have any advice for them until COVID is over?
Everybody is in that same boat. There isn't an organization on that planet that has enough resources. Even the businesses that are profiting from this, if you're looking into Zoom, without knowing any details about them, but I can assure you that they would love to have more people serving their customers because they are in explosive growth mode, right? Other people, like some friends of mine who are in the travel and entertainment industry that imploded, have this this different issue that they're trying their best to do something but cannot get ahead. For both problems, the answer is the same. It is continuous learning how to take lessons from the past, what worked for this scenario, what worked for that scenario, and automate this. Create new processes, create new variants of processes, automate those, and put those into, I call them learning buckets, where the customer success team, where the customer, where partners, if they are involved, if you're not directly touching your customers, all can gain that knowledge by going to this oracle and basically retrieving those nuggets of, haha, if this and that happens, you should be doing B, not A, like you thought you would be doing. And that is helping in all these scenarios to help yourself, to help your partners, and to help your customers to be so successful without investing into more and more resources. In fact, one of the repeat crisis situations that I find in companies that engage with me to help them is that during a period of growth, they were cloning whatever they had and hired more people of the same. And now, because of the scale of the organization, that model doesn't scale itself anymore. And with more and more people you're hiring, you're increasing more and more chaos, and you're becoming less and less effective. So all you're promoting is insanity. And my job is to help people out of this depression and this high blood pressure into something that is a bit more organized. That can only happen if you're not just repeating the same behaviors over and over, that you're learning from them, capturing that knowledge, and are making decisions based off the data that you have. And that could be in a human fashion, or it could be in an automated fashion through AI.
Yes, yes. And I do want to talk about AI, but before we get to AI, I want to ask you, because you have a math background and you're huge into metrics and data, what is your recommendation for organizations? How should they measure success of their customer service?
Ultimately, it is about the profits that you're making from a customer over their lifetime. That is the key measure. That is the measure. If you're a public company, you as the CEO, the CFO, and the board of directors are held accountable by the shareholders. Are you making money with this, or is this a nonprofit organization who provides a selfless service? And for for-profit organizations, it's about turning a profit. So that needs to be your number one measurement. What am I doing? How am I performing with all the investments I do in sales and marketing during the acquisition of the customer, in helping them through their struggles to turn a profit from this customer? It's not about how happy is the customer. That is a supporting metric, but it's not the end all. People in business are not looking to make friends. We have social media for that. I have my Instagram, my Facebook, my whatever account for that to have my social circle of friends. Business leaders are looking for business solutions to help them be more successful in their business. And your responsibility in customer success is to help them doing this in a profitable fashion. And that also means that for some customers, you have to be able to make the decision to walk away or to not support them anymore. Because like some personal relationships, you have to break up because there isn't really that much of a match, right? You have to also say, well, we're happy to keep you as a customer, but we will not continue to invest resources and resources and resources because you, customer, either internally are not able to react to the recommendations that we give you, or your expectations into what we are able to provide are so far off from the capabilities that we believe we should provide to a large customer base, that you're becoming a one-off and it's not profitable for us to maintain you with your specific needs anymore. And that is also a very tough decision, because you're like, but I invested so much effort in this company. It's like, yes, and now you want to throw more good money at a bad situation. So that is what unfortunately happens in many cases.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up. We haven't talked about that on this podcast yet. All right, so we're talking about resources earlier and limited resources, and you had said, different ways to be strategic with your current customer service professionals and teams, and then you brought up AI. So let's talk about that. Since you are a thought leader in the customer success space, I'd love your opinion on what do you think is going to be the future of AI in the customer service space?
Right now, one of the many problems that organizations, overall companies, and then also customer success functions are struggling with is this tsunami of data coming at them. It's like, you need to measure this, and you need to have this telemetry, and you need to have this data point and everything into this health score, into this customer relationship score, and into this stuff and into that stuff, and so on and so forth. How should everyone be able to discern anything out of this? Maybe in some Hollywood fiction, you can take a pill and discern what the stock market is doing or something like that. But it's a similar type of problem. How do you find information out in the data that you can make business decisions on? Does this customer need help? Does this customer need a specific service proposal? Is this customer at risk? Whatever it is. So AI, on the one hand, I love it because in many cases you can throw a lot of data at it, and the artificial intelligence in the background in itself makes already the decision, so to speak. What is relevant? How much should I factor this nugget of information versus all these other nuggets of information to make that decision to achieve this outcome? And the outcome should always be, for the best amount possible, to keep, renew, and expand the customer. And so, like I said, with learning, you need to collect information, analyze it, and then make decisions on how you can come up with different type of scenarios, which the practitioners don't have the time for it because their hair is on fire. Their leaders don't have time for it because their team's hair is on fire and they're running around with a fire extinguisher themselves, right? And so having AI as a capability to provide that really intelligence into those processes, that is where the future ultimately has to lie.
Yes. Yeah, I talked to one of our customers. They implemented their Inbenta solution. It was a chat bot right when COVID hit. So last year around February, March. And they didn't know COVID was going to happen. It was just by accident. It happened at the same time. And they were so happy that they did that because they're seeing that 90% of their increased questions that they've been getting on the website are now handled by the bot. If they didn't have a bot, they would have not been able to answer questions. They said it would have probably been like 5-hour hold times for questions. So it's been wild, and this is really the time, especially if you do have a leaner team to implement it. And they're getting smarter and smarter, and it is less work, but it's still work. Like you said, you still want to read the data, right? You still want to see what's happening, what the chat's all about if you do have a chat bot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and the other advantage is when you do this kind of through my services and analysis, everything, it's a one-time event. If you're a really good leader, you have like an annual retreat where you get people together, some brainstorming happening, or maybe even on a quarterly basis if you're like really exceptional. But the AI is continuously learning and improving. It's continuously asking itself, am I still achieving the same results based out of the data that I collected? Is there another truth? Is there another subcluster that I can make a different decision upon to get to something instead of going after these larger sets? So I'm A, as a mathematician, and B, as a practitioner. I'm fascinated about AI, not because it's cool, but because it is a vitamin, so to speak, that we all need in the business to inject ourselves with to be healthier, better performing in our business functions.
Yes, it's a vitamin. I like that. It'll be our new tagline, take your vitamins.
Yes, exactly.
So Andreas, I have one last question for you, and I want you to speak directly to customer service leaders. And my question for you is, what is the number one piece of advice that you have for customer service departments?
You need to be financially relevant. That means you need to own the customer renewal, the financial aspect, not just the relational aspect. A very good mentor of mine told me once, in order to be always secure in a company, even in a crisis, you have to touch money or touch someone who touches money. If you're in customer service and you're helping people to have a better experience or through their little troubles, you're too far removed from that value chain. So you need to step up as a leader and say, I own this. You need to understand the financials, you need to provide those financials, and you need to be able to make decisions to improve those financials. And that is my number one advice. And that is why the Customer Success Performance Index is not just a survey of what people are doing. To come up with a very cheesy example, when you're driving on the road, statistically, 50% of the people on the road drive below average. That is just the nature of the average, right? So if you do a survey that is just asking what you're doing, you're not correlating what I'm doing with how I'm performing as a business, how I'm performing as a business leader, how I'm making my customers successful. And that is the distinguishing key criteria between the Customer Success Performance Index and other type of surveys that are trying to discern what is happening amongst the business professionals. And that is why I encourage business leaders to go and search for Customer Success Performance Index, or you go to cstuners.com and take the benchmark and see what it is all about. It takes you 8 to 10 minutes. It's about 35 questions, some of them business related, some of them in the various aspects that I believe are relevant for customer success, and see where your financial performance is in correlation to other business leaders. If you want to wait a couple of weeks so that you have COVID relevant information, that is fine, but I would put this definitely on every business leader's bucket list for 2021.
Amazing. I love it. And I'm going to put the link to your website into that in the show notes for everybody that's looking for it. All right, Andreas, I really appreciate your time and your knowledge. Thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome. Thank you again for having me and allowing me to share my perspective of customer success and how every business leader and practitioner can help their customer base be more successful.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.